Okay, here's where we have to understand how music is organized. Today's today's lesson on how music is organized is the most important fundamental thing that you absolutely must learn about the organization of music. Yeah. Um, in a nutshell, this thing that you and I are calling music, you know, and this instrument that I'm playing the guitar or even many other instruments that you hear, the pianos and stuff, all of these are centered around a structural organization of music that whereby there are only 12 recurring notes in the music. Now this doesn't mean that when music was I don't know first created, or if there's such a thing called natural music, like you hear the whistling sounds of birds and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that all of them also follow these 12 notes, but for the sake of organized, let's call it Western music. Yeah, organized Western music, there are just 12 notes in the music, and then everything else is a matter of how we arrange things, which of these 12 notes we use, and so on. There are other cultures, for example, some North Indian cultures where they also have their own history of music making, where they don't use 12 notes, they use 16, or there might be some cultures which even use 18 divisions and notes to describe music. So let's not get into that complicated thing. Let's just say that for the music that you and I are playing and talking about here, there are 12 notes in the musical thing. A guitar, for example, say a good representation of the way these notes are. Let me play the first string, the lightest string on the guitar, without pressing a single fret. So this is an open string, we call it. And this note is an E note. If I press the first fret, the next note is, you just have to take it from me, the next note is an F note. If I press the another string, the next note is called F sharp. At the third fret, it's called G, then it's G sharp, then we have A sharp, B, and then there's a C. There's no B sharp, there's a C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then voila, we come back to an E again. That's it. There are no more notes. So we have an E at the bottom, and we have an E at the 12th fret, and that's it. They are the same, except one E is higher than the other. Listen to this. Okay, so this higher E, we call it an octave higher. Never mind about that. Now it so happens that if somebody wanted to show somebody else all the notes of the musical scale, they could play this. It sounds mechanical. Yeah, it sounds mechanical. And then somewhere along the line in history, somebody said, why don't we have a certain organization and a certain reference kind of movement instead of going through all these bloody 12 notes? Yeah. So they said, okay, let's do things a little bit differently. And they went to this. It sounded almost like a tune. Sounded nice, but instead of having 12 notes now, they reduced it to just 8 notes. Now, these reference 8 notes. This is the entire reference structure for the organization of music, right? And the way it is described on a guitar board, think of it like this: any string, if you start with that, that is going to be the reference in that key. So if we start with an E, so this is I'm going to play now the E reference notes, and this is E. then instead of playing the very next note. In music, if you play a note exactly beside the previous note, it is called moving a half step. If you play a note which is like two half steps away, it's a whole step. Don't ask me why they called it this. Yeah, I wasn't around in those days to advise them on how to name their notes and their steps. So anyway, if you move, start an E, you avoid the next note, but you play on the second fret now. This is like a full step movement, right? And then you move another full step, then you move a half step, then you move a full step, a full step, a full step, and a half step. You get this sound. Those of you who are older might remember the good old days of do re mi fa sol la ti do, yeah, from Mary Poppins or whatever. So anyway, that is that. Now, in a guitar, the notes tend to be repeating. Yeah, like for example, the first string here, the sixth string is an E again, and here we have E, we have an F sharp, we have a G sharp, and we have an A. But the next string, which is the fifth string, is already an A string. So if you wanted to play that whole, 12 notes, you could go up on the E string, or you could utilize the A string to help you. But the moment you go on the A string, and when you cross the fifth fret of the guitar, so to speak, you are coming into, this is a D note, right? This is already a D string, so you could go here. And so you could use these three strings to play that, reference scale, which is called the major scale, by the way. Yeah, let the cat out of the bag. It may be boring. If it's boring, probably because I explained it in a boring way. But what I'm trying to say is this is the reference upon which all of the music theory that we know is developed. You take any note anywhere, you move one step away, then you move another step away, then you move a half step, then one step, one step, one step and half step, and you'll end up one octave higher. And because in the guitar the strings, it's not like the one string to another is like 12 half steps away. There are only 5 half steps, and you're already onto the next string. So the notes are repeating very nearby, and so I could play for example, I start here. This is a G note, so I got to play the G reference scale, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I hit the octave exactly, one octave higher than that. And so now I have, just to talk about seven notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8 is the octave. So I actually even now just talk about 7 different notes. Yeah. And I can describe now G. The first note of G, the second note of G major scale, third note of G major scale, fourth note, etc. This is the reference point.